I've been with Assured Strategy for just about a year now, and one of the things that I specialize in the business is process efficiency. So today's seminar is on, or webinar is on process-driven tactics for cost savings. And what we'll cover here is a methodology that we use at Assured Strategy to uh, help with process improvement and make it simpler. So our first thing I'm going to talk about is how to identify what you should improve and those three simple steps to improve them. So first, I'm going to go over some things about Assured Strategy, how we could identify a process that you would want to improve. We'll go over the three steps, and then I actually have a bit of a whiteboarding exercise that we'll do. I encourage you to interact as much as you can with that, and if not, you'll just see me talking to myself. So a little bit about Assured Strategy. Uh, we are an executive coaching firm, and we also do like leadership coaching, not limited to executives, but we're the what we use is two books by Vern Harnish, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits and Scaling Up. And these are the frameworks that we use in all of our work. And it really comes down to what we call the four decisions: people, strategy, execution, and cash. So you have to have the right people and the right strategy, be able to execute on that strategy, and really understand what your cash position is. So, people decision is about harmonious culture and accountability. Strategy is about top line revenue growth. Execution is converting your revenue efficiently into profit. And that's one of the things that I focus in on is that efficiency. And the cash decision is, we like to say, it's about oxygen. It's about having sufficient cash to have the options to make wise decisions. And Bernadette, I'm going to go ahead and mute you. There's a lot of background noise coming from your side. Sorry. So going on, our execution decision is primarily, are all of your processes running without drama and driving industry-leading profitability? So it's when you're first starting a business, there's not really a whole lot of process involved because you're just trying to get things going and you're working on, selling, producing whatever it is that you're selling, landing your customers, getting financing together, and all of those sorts of things. But in order to scale and in order to grow, you get to a point where, okay, there's some things that we need to write down. There are some things that we were doing that we know it's not the best way to do it, and we could be better at it. And one of the things that's really important here is that they're running without drama. Okay, there's no uh, things where you have to go to one person and they're always busy and they can't get back to you and things are delayed and delayed and delayed. And drama can definitely contribute to your inability to really grow and grow to the next level. So I think that's something to really think about, is that drama part. And are you driving your profitability? So when we think about profitability, I have some numbers here, like 1 hour per day, okay, at $25 an hour if you're, having a $50,000 a year employee. Uh, just 1 hour per day is if you're wasting up 1 hour per day, let me say, you're wasting $65,000 a year, which is actually enough money to have another employee. Uh, Removing 3 daily interruptions. Okay, anytime you are interrupted in the middle of a task, it takes 20 minutes to get back to that same spot that you were on the task before you were interrupted. So 3 daily interruptions again is $65,000. And then certainly delivering faster than your competition is, you really can't put a price on that. So before I move on here, does anyone have any questions about how this math adds up just in the scope of time saving? Okay. Uh, One of the tools we have at Assured Strategy, and we have a lot of different tools for a lot of different areas, but the tool that I'd like to go over here right now is our cost quality time triangle. So I think a lot of people have seen this, low cost, done quickly, high quality. Some people say, well, you can get it done fast, good, or cheap. Pick two. My architect friend always says that. And the thing is, a lot of times picking two isn't really the answer. Okay. Because I don't think anyone would say, hey, we don't want to have high quality in the work that we do. And certainly most most people want to do it at the lowest cost possible. And of course, the market in today's like fast moving world dictates that you also get it done quickly. Okay. So done quickly and low cost usually means low quality. Low cost and high quality, usually you have to do it slowly. And doing it quick at high quality usually costs more. So when we talk about process improvement, what I'm trying to do is get you all three pieces of the triangle. So if you can get that, uh, we can lower costs, means making more money without having to drastically increase your sales. Customer satisfaction. Hey, higher quality leads to higher customer satisfaction. Okay, and you have to remember with customer satisfaction that uh, just when people are nice, if they complain about a quality issue, doesn't mean that they're happy about it. Okay, they're simply nice people. So one example, like I love the Bombas socks, and they wear out over time. But the last pair I bought wore out, had a hole in them after about a month, and they have a satisfaction guarantee. And I called the company, and they sent me a new pair. Okay, I was satisfied because they stuck to their brand promise, and but they also have a reputation for quality, and it really felt to me like something had gone wrong with their quality, and I was really annoyed by this. Another example I have was when I was put in charge of a software product, and we had scheduled like 6 weeks whenever we delivered the product to a customer for them to do their own testing and come back and tell us what needed to be adjusted and so on. And so we were not getting it done quickly. We weren't getting it done at high quality. And certainly it was costing us a lot of money to extend that timeline by 6 weeks. But the thing was, a lot of the customers were happy because they were becoming part of the process. Well, I didn't think that this was a really good way to measure our customer satisfaction just on if they felt good about being part of the process and pointing out defects in the software. So we did a lot of internal work, and we got the defects down to zero that the customers were finding. And after two releases with no customer reported issues, a customer called and said, hey, do we actually have to do this 6 weeks of testing? Because we don't find problems anymore. So by increasing our quality, we were also able to lower the cost and get it done more quickly because the customers didn't have to take that 6 weeks. We didn't have to, pay a staff for 6 weeks just fixing problems. And our customers were much more satisfied. Customer retention increased. Then we were able to actually sell people new features. So the whole thing kind of cascaded on that effort that we put out there to deliver high quality, do it faster, and at a lower cost. Uh, and then, the other thing that you get when you're doing this is faster time to market. So, I don't know how many of you are in sales, but we always hear in sales, hey, your competitor says they can do it in, like, let's say 2 weeks. And how come you can't? Well, or, why isn't that done yet? Why don't I have my product yet? And when you are the first to market and you're the fastest to market and you can deliver to your customers and deliver to them with quality, you're not the one getting those questions. Your competitors are getting the questions, and it becomes definitely a competitive advantage for you. So, what we're going to talk about as we get into this a little bit more is really not picking two things in the triangle, but hitting all three. And the way to start that is we have to decide, okay, what are the things that we're going to improve? So we have a tool that we use to help you identify that, and that is the typical waste tool. So on the left, hey, it's 100% quality, no delays, and so forth. And on the right is things that are not being helpful to your business when it gets to that 0%. So now, depending on the type of business you have, things can be more important to capturing market share, to your profitability, and so on. And this tool allows you to fill in what might be a rating, like, from in a percentage time that you would say, okay, now good quality, we're at like 50%. Delays, we're at 100% because we don't think we have any delays, and so on. So process-wise, the items that we look at here are the quality delivered, delays, cost of production, optimized process flow, and the other two, there's something with right people in the right seat. That's more our people area, and the value to the deliverables is kind of covered more in the cash area. But that's not to say that those are exempt from having good processes around them. Okay, so step one, taking this tool, seeing where you are, and then making a decision saying, okay, am I going to accept where we're at? Or is that something that we should focus on? And when I say focus on it, let's pick, a small group of things that we're going to try to improve and not the whole thing. So even though we might be at a 25 on no delays and a 50 at quality delivered, we might very well make the decision that we're going to work on quality as opposed to delays, because we believe with higher quality that will also impact the area of delays. Now, there are a lot of different techniques that are around for doing process improvement. And you might have heard of some of these things. Oops. Six Sigma, Kaizen, 5S, all of these things really rely heavily on measurements. Everything's measure, 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 measure. And, when you have a tool, they say when you have a hammer, everything becomes a nail. And a lot of these methodologies are really good or I would say all of them are really good for manufacturing. And they're really good when you have a process in place and you're able to do some things to measure different pieces of that process. However, when you're a smaller organization or you're starting to scale up, or you're trying to address a particular problem, uh, people tend to get stuck on, okay, first thing we have to do is measure, and so that's going to take us 6 months to get together all these measurements. Well, you're not making progress along any area if you're focusing in on, oh, let's measure something without knowing what the what that measurement should be. Like, what is a good measurement? And going through and spending a lot of time measuring doesn't really get you there. And I had a plan at one point where I was going to put in a process that's similar to Six Sigma, and I had a big meeting, and everybody was there from each department in the company, and we were going to overhaul this, basically the manufacturing process of the business. And as we were talking about the actual process that we were going to use, one of my coworkers raised her hand, and she said, "You know what? We keep having these meetings. We keep talking about different methodologies we're going to use to improve the process, but none of this matters. Okay? Not the process, the methodology itself doesn't matter. What we need to do is have accountability to the project we're doing and work on completing it." And that was like so eye-opening to me, because I was always of the mind that, a better process was what we really needed. And the one thing that I learned from that and coming over to Assured Strategy is, we can look at people strategy, execution, and cash. When we focus in on uh, any one of those other than people, people always comes into play. So just keep that in mind, that, in doing any sort of, change to your organization, the people are really the most important thing. And doing it in the easiest way for people to get a handle on it is typically, not always, but typically a much better choice than choosing a particular methodology. So I'll pause here before I get to uh, the Assured Strategy methodology. So does anyone have any questions? All right. So this is the Assured Strategy methodology. It's 3 simple steps. We call it write, question, and measure. And that's our WQM, write, question, measure, for process improvement. So you notice when I talked about the other methodologies, Six Sigma especially, they jump in and say, hey, the first thing that you need to do is get a whole bunch of measurements. And what I found is that that just delays the start of the project. The project, kind of has a, a life of its own to gather data, and spend a lot of time gathering data. And then what? Right? You're not really addressing anything about the data when you start there. So if you start with writing it down, this will put that process piece, what we're doing, up front. Then question kind of why we're doing it, what are we doing, who's doing it, and then think about, okay, if we make a particular change, what's a way that we can measure whether we're successful or not. Now, I'm not saying don't do measurements for your business. Okay, I'm just saying, if you don't have a lot of measurements, don't make that a limiting factor in improving your processes. So writing it down, uh, it's just what it says. Write it down. I believe, doing this on a whiteboard is the perfect way to do it. Even if you already have a process documented, it's a wonderful exercise to have two people who do that process on a regular basis uh, in front of a larger group. Just get some stickies and start putting together. This is what we each do. And inevitably, you find that those two people are doing some things differently. Okay, some of those are, six of one, half dozen the other, but others would be very important to do the same way. And we usually find that just that part of the exercise adjusts the process right then and there, removing different pieces of waste that are typically time related. So I think when we do this, a lot of people use the airline pilot analogy to say, hey, when the pilot's getting ready to take off, they go down their checklist, they go down their same checklist every single time. And yeah, they should. I hope they do because, lives are definitely at stake with that. Um, Most of our processes are not that way. We're not, a pilot, a doctor, an airplane mechanic. And so day in and day out in our jobs, we don't typically sit there with a checklist going through exactly what we're doing every single day. Okay. And I love checklists. Checklists are a great way to train. And, at some point in what you're doing, it's a good reference. It's good when you have, say, a restaurant and it's something for cleaning. You want to make sure you're not forgetting to clean something, and so on. But writing it down is so easy to do. uh, Grab some post-it notes. If you're remote and you want to use some other tool, that will work out really well. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and I'd like to see if people can join me in, or join me in. You can still see me, right? So join me in a whiteboard exercise. So the process I'm going to do is an out of office. So when we are going out of office, a couple things we do. Well, we set up an auto reply. Uh, I'm going to tell my team what I'm doing, that I'm going out of town. I'm going to notify them, my customers, who to call. Uh, I'm going to check to see if the hotel has Wi-Fi. Okay. And uh, I'm going to make sure that I pack my laptop. And that's really what I'm talking about when putting down post-its. Okay. You don't have to necessarily do a flow, put them in order. Uh, maybe these two things can be done in either order. It doesn't really matter. Uh, checking the Wi-Fi, but last I want to pack my laptop. So I've kind of done it in that way. And then once I have that together, and I'm going to make a change here. Um, and so I'll put some lines on my whiteboard. And that comes up to be, I just put lines here and I said 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so writing it down, now I know, okay, first I'm going to do these. then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. And it's as simple as that. And I've done this same thing. Of course, you need, more Post-its. And yeah, it's nice if each person who's putting them up has their own color Post-it, and that way you can, quickly tell, well, who said we need to do this. And if you do have a written process together, get someone to look at that written process and see if it matches up with what you put on the whiteboard. And just like having two people do the whiteboard, you have when you're going through that written process, I'd be very surprised if you did not see a number of grammatical mistakes, things that don't make sense, and the like in your written process. So I'm going to go back to sharing, and so that's the write it down piece. Anybody have any questions? Right. So I'm going to go back to the sharing the PowerPoint. So that's the write it down. The next piece is question. Question what you've written down. Why is this needed? Do we have it in multiple? Do we do things in two different ways? Are those differences meaningful? And as you question what you've written, you can make adjustments or just mark up your whiteboard with some other Post-its. So I'll do that. Stop sharing again. So here, okay, I want to know why I'm doing some certain things. So I'm going to say, why am I checking the hotel Wi-Fi? Okay, and well, that's because I want to be able to hook up my laptop. Okay, these two things are connected. I want to hook up my laptop when I get to the hotel so that people can reach me. And I'm like, well, why do I have to make sure that um, I'm doing that? And the question here is, well, do I have trust in my team that they can back me up while I'm gone? Okay, and that's a question that often comes up when we do these is, okay, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I'm the only one that can do the job. And if I'm the only one that can do the job, is that good for our business? And if you're saying, "Oh yeah, that's great for the business," uh, and I don't think you are, because you wouldn't be here if if that was the kind of mindset that you had. So, questioning. That's how you use the board to question. But there are some things to look out for as you ask these questions: why, where, when, how, what, and who. The biggest question is why. Okay. Things that come out. Hey, um, you know, so and so is the only person who can do that part of the job. Okay. And, we found that in a customer support situation, there was a guy, Mike, and he was the only one who knew how to troubleshoot printers. So every printer problem went through Mike. And Mike was busy. People didn't get their printers fixed. Uh, then we asked, why? He said, well, I'm too busy to show anyone else how to do it, and we'll get to that in the next section. Um, then in another case, we found out that there was a report that was being done every month, and it took 2 weeks out of the month uh, to generate the report. And we asked I'll change the names, but Scott was sending the report to Mary, and Mary was looking it over, sending changes back to Scott that she saw were problems. He would fix them and send it back to her. And then when it was complete, she would say, Here's a copy of the completed report. And the only two people in the business that ever looked at that report were Scott and Mary. And Scott called it Mary's report, and Mary called it Scott's report. So we, stopped doing the report. And I think one thing that when you're talking about reports, you can keep doing them if that makes you feel comfortable, but don't distribute them and see if anybody complains. And then when people are saying, "Oh, we can't because of whatever reason," if we're looking here and we say, "Well, we can't spend the time to train other people because I'm too busy." Turn that question around. Okay. How can you change "we can't because" to be "we can if we do whatever"? Okay. So in the case of, Mike with the printers, ask that question, well, how can you be less busy? And we said, well, the only way that we can do that is to delay customers from getting their printers fixed. So we did decide that we were going to accept a delay in order for Mike to put together a troubleshooting list and train up other people on what he did. And amazingly, it only took like 2 or 3 days. And the customer turnaround time for those fixes did not really get impacted. And after that, we were able to fix their problems, within an hour instead of in 2 or 3 days. So, that's a good example of, we could if whatever. And in that case, we could if we upset our customers for a few days versus the current situation where aren't they upset every day now? And, that's a great example, I think, of, turning that "we can't because" into "we could if." So if I come back here to my whiteboard, okay, so I'm saying, well, why am I checking the Wi-Fi and taking my laptop? It's because in my auto reply, I put there, well, you can call these people, but you can also reach me on my cell phone, and I'll be checking email while I'm out of the office. Well, what if, and I say, well, I have to do that because I'm the only one that can take care of the problem. I can't not do that, right? Well, if we really said, when I'm going to call my team, tell my team what's happening, I'm going to trust them, and I'm going to trust myself that I'm going to give them enough information for while I'm out of town so that they can handle things. To tell my customers who to call, okay, and things that are not, majorly urgent, well, okay, those things can wait, or even better, someone else can take care of them. And in my auto reply, I just take out what uh, what I would normally put in there about I'm going to check my email and those things, and then uh, these two post-its go away. And now I have a more streamlined out of the office process. Now, how are we going to know if that worked out, right? So let me go back to sharing. Oops. Share. Okay, we're done with questioning. So we've done write, question, and now measure. Now, how are we going to know that what I did was effective? Well, one thing is I know if I'm going to get rest. Okay, so a good measurement for this would be, well, how many times did something have to wait until I got back? Okay, Or how many times did my team have to call me on the cell phone and say, I hate to really bother you, and so on. But also, another measurement would be, well, how many times did I take care of the problem versus telling the team what they needed to do to take care of the problem? So those are measurements that you can do simply, manually. The tick marks is a good way to do it. But the fewer things that you try to measure, the easier it's going to be. And then you can build on that over time. So, here's some things that, measurements that some other companies use. So, for instance, Popeyes, chicken and biscuits, their one measurement for the company is how long it takes after a person walks in the door until they've completed placing their order. Now, you may have noticed a side effect of this if you go to Popeyes is they'll take your order right away and then everyone sits and waits for their food. But that's the way that they decided to cascade things in their business. Dunkin' Donuts, what's the wait time in the drive-through? So if you've ever gone inside, if someone in the drive-through is waiting more than, I think it's 2 minutes, the alarm starts, it starts going beep, 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 and they have to, turn it off. Customer service, typically that's time spent customers on hold or time spent to resolution. And like for manufacturing, it could be your work in progress at the end of the day. So some easy measurements that I've used in the past have been in the customer service realm, uh, looking at overall our turnaround time to close tickets was really long, several days. And so earlier I told you about the story with Mike and the printer, and that took care of a part of it. But we also said, well, what are we doing internally? So the first thing was looking at the junior people, and because they were solving a lot less uh, issues than the seniors, and we said, well, why don't we measure how many times the junior people interrupt the seniors? And we did this again with post-it notes. We just gave every, senior person on the team, there are like four of them, a colored post-it note, and they just made a mark every time that they were interrupted with the work that they were doing. And at the end of the day, everybody handed uh, their post-it notes to someone who entered them in a spreadsheet. Well, what we found out was uh, a couple of them were getting interrupted a lot. And when they were getting interrupted, it was also by the same person or the same group of people. So that gave us a bunch of things to work on, right? Like, well, why aren't these other people getting interrupted a lot? And so through that, we discovered two problems. One, a whole group of people was spending way too much time trying to figure stuff out for themselves. And secondly, the other group of people, the seniors, were fixing the problems instead of allowing the junior people to actually fix the problem. So the change that we made was twofold. One, the junior people were not allowed to work on a problem on their own without resolving it or getting close to resolving it for more than half an hour. And the senior people were not allowed to fix the problem. They had to show the junior person how to fix it. And amazingly, just by doing those two things, oh, and by the way, we called that whole process, the team called it headbanging. So they said, we're going to stop headbanging, which I thought was kind of funny. But getting back to the story, we made those two changes. And the turnaround time again went from days down to hours in most cases. And we were able to get to the point where when we went home on Friday, the only outstanding issues were from Friday. So, and those are really just two simple things. Um, Another thing, that's easy to measure is travel time. How much time in the sales arena do our salespeople spend traveling versus selling? Okay, and we found that wow, for every sale, it was taking about 10 hours of travel, and oftentimes the traveling was close to the destinations were close to one another. But instead of going from, your home base, destination one, destination two, back home, uh, every travel with the customer was arranged uh, independently. So we were going from the home base to destination one, back to home base, over to destination two, back to home base. And by measuring how many customers were covered in a particular travel uh, journey, then we're able to, do some easy division and say, okay, so now our travel time per lead went from 10 hours to 5 hours just by adding that second destination onto the same trip. So I don't think I'll go back to the whiteboard on those measurements, but I'll kind of close with saying, look, it's right question measure, very simple. You don't need to have a lot of technology. You don't need to know a lot of math. You don't need to have a tremendous amount of systems in place in order to accomplish that. So before I go on to a few closing remarks, does anybody have any questions? Okay, I'll call on my coworker Warren. Did I cover everything that I usually cover?
No, it's great, Preston. Thank you. No, great job.
Thank you. Okay, so for those of you who are on the call, um, I'm offering to do a free business process gap assessment. And this is something that we usually charge $2,000 for. And I'll make that available to the first 3 people that sign up before the end of the month. And the business process gap assessment is something that's based off of the 10 wastes. We go back to this one to refresh your memory. Uh, these are some particular areas. Do you have a good process there? What is the importance of having a good process there? And help you identify where gaps in your business might be. And I do that through a series of phone interviews, about 6 to 10 people in your organization. I'll talk to on the phone for about half an hour, ask them some questions about processes in your business that are in their area of responsibility and some that are not in their area of responsibility. And I'll provide a one-page business process gap assessment report. And so you'll get, in that report, it's going to be what's the state overall of your current processes, recommendations for prioritizing those processes within your organization, like where I see that the that wastes tool would lie for your organization. And third, what are some recommended next steps to document and improve your processes? So if you're interested, you can send me an email or just send an email to info@assuredstrategy. info at Assured Strategy or P-Law at Assured Strategy. And if you're interested in getting a closer look at any of the tools, again, either email info or P-Law. And so I hope to hear from you there. And we also have a number of upcoming workshops and webinars that you can find at our website, assuredstrategy.com/events. And you'll, April, July, yeah, we still have July and August on here for our webinars and our workshops in San Diego, Denver, and Fort Lauderdale. So thank you for your time today. Appreciate it. And please do reach out before the 30th if you are interested in that gap assessment. Thank you very much.